ESFJ FANA loop, what it means and how to break free. For the extroverted personality types, going into their loop means they turn to their extrovert functions. This isn't immediately a bad or negative thing, and sometimes it occurs under stress as a means of helping the person navigate whatever challenges they are facing. At first, it can cause them to turn towards parts of themselves they normally would not, applying pressure to a function that isn't as natural or strong for them. It can help the individual figure out some things they are struggling with, but if this goes on for too long, it can certainly become unhealthy for them. When they get in this loop for long periods of time, they definitely need a means of breaking free before it applies too much stress to their weaker functions and leaves them feeling emotionally and mentally exhausted. The FANA loop causes the ESFJ to rely only on their extrovert functions, neglecting their introverted ones entirely. Ordinarily, the ESFJ also relies quite a bit on their auxiliary function, which is their introverted sensing. This helps them to compare the information they absorb to things that have happened in the past and helps the ESFJ make more practical choices based on this. When they are in their loop, they neglect this function entirely and become hyper-focused on pleasing everyone in ways that are no longer realistic or practical. The ESFJ loses sight of the things which normally ground them and helps them to focus on what they are capable of getting done in a reasonable manner. ESFJ typically rely on introverted sensing. When the ESFJ is not in their loop, they rely heavily on their extrovert feeling and introverted sensing functions. They utilize their dominant extrovert feeling as their go-to when it comes to processing the world, but their auxiliary function is also very important for them. They need to utilize this function to help the ESFJ manage things in a practical way. This is what grounds them and helps them be rather realistic people who are capable of setting goals and accomplishing them. They use this introverted sensing to focus on past situations and compare this information with the present. When they do this, they can see patterns in things which have helped them achieve their goals in the past. ESFJs become rather focused on habits and patterns, but when used correctly, this is very useful for them. They combine this C with their dominant function, and it helps them to figure out what they can reasonably manage. ESFJs care about helping people and will want to do whatever they can to please those around them. Without the use of their introverted sensing function, they can struggle to really find ways to manage this need to please. This helps the ESFJ see where they can expend energy, and where they might be trying to take on too many things simultaneously. The FANA loop in ESFJs. When the ESFJ is in their loop, they become focused on their extrovert functions. The ESFJ relies only on their extrovert feeling and extrovert intuition, and this makes them behave differently than normal. Instead of knowing where they can afford to help, the ESFJ starts to stretch themselves way too thin. They see all the possibilities and ways they can serve and please others, and find themselves wanting to take on everything at once. The ESFJ no longer sees things in a fully rational manner, instead they just see ways in which they want to make their loved ones happy. They will go above and beyond in order to please everyone around them, causing them to feel overwhelmed. The ESFJ can start to see how they need to push themselves in order to please everyone, or else things might go wrong, and they might disappoint these people. They become hyper-aware of what everyone wants and will even try to see into future ways to make them happy. They can see these possibilities in both positive and negative ways, and this causes the ESFJ to stretch themselves way too thin. They will take on large projects and struggle to turn anyone down when they are asking for help. The ESFJ becomes overwhelmed after a while, taking on so many things and struggling to manage them properly. They will definitely push themselves and be capable of maintaining this for a while, as ESFJs don't like feeling as if they have failed anyone around them. They want to be able to make others happy, and in this loop, they find themselves imagining many different ways to become the perfect friend, partner, and family member. How to escape the ESFJ loop? The best way for the ESFJ to escape their FANA loop is to focus on their auxiliary function. The introverted functions are what the ESFJ needs in order to get back to normal, but their auxiliary function is the best one to turn to. The ESFJ needs to start focusing on old habits and things that would normally bring them a sense of comfort and understanding. Instead of taking on too many things, they can remember the things at which they were most efficient and turn to those actions instead. The ESFJ needs to become practical once again, instead of focusing so much on possibilities and pleasing everyone around them in over-the-top ways. The more they turn to this function and focus on past methods and things they are comfortable with, the more they can return to what is natural. While the loops can sometimes serve a purpose and often come out under stress, the ESFJ cannot rely on this for too long. If they are stuck in this loop for too long, it can cause them to become overwhelmed and emotionally exhausted.